land in which Smiths Falls is now located has been a site of human activity for over 10,000 years and is rich in Indigenous history. This land is the ancestral and unceded territory of the Algonquin Anishinaabe Nation. We're grateful to the Algonquin ancestors that cared for the land and water in order that we might meet here today. We're also grateful for the Algonquin people for their contribution in making of the Rideau Canal, which runs through Smiths Falls. We're mindful of broken covenants and the need to reconcile with all our relations. Together, may we care for this land and each other, drawing on the strength of our mutual history of nation building through peace and friendship, being mindful of generations to come. I have one proclamation this afternoon. The Town of Smiths Falls 2-minute wave of silence. Whereas November 11th, 2021 is at the dawn of a century we hope will be blessed with peace. Whereas all Canadians owe a debt to the 116,000 brave young men and women who gave their lives to defend our freedom and way of life. And whereas to help secure peace for future generations, we must always remember the sacrifices, especially the young people who were always the first called in times of strife. And whereas the Royal Canadian Legion is asking all Canadians to observe a 2-minute silence at 11 a.m. on November 11th, and this silence will begin in Newfoundland and sweep across the country like a wave as the clock strikes 11 a.m. in each time zone. Now therefore be resolved that the Council of the Town of Smiths Falls hereby proclaims our support for the 2-minute wave of silence and further pledge that we will participate in a 2-minute silence at 11 a.m. local time on November 11th, 2021, and encourage the citizens of Smiths Falls to participate in the 2-minute wave of silence. At this point, I'll ask for any amendments to today's agenda. And any amendments to the agenda today? Councillor Alford.
Thank you, Worship. I'd like to move to amend tonight's agenda, if my colleagues agree, by removing 7.1 and returning that subject to the vaccination policy to the committee of the whole next week. Given that the town's employees have stood with, behind, and in front of our town all through the COVID crisis, I believe additional discussion is warranted before making a decision.
Thank you. I'll ask for any consent to that recommendation or request today. I see Councillor Dwyer, and I see support, widespread support for that. So we will remove item 7.1. Councillor McKenna, you want to say something?
Sorry, thank you, Your Worship. I just wanted to understand the length of the deferral. Are we talking 1 week or a month or? So
I'll recommend we defer that to next week, next Monday's committee of the whole meeting. Yep. Councillor Brennan?
Yeah, I had a comment on that. I'm not sure, are there additional questions to be answered? Because we had a fulsome discussion on this subject last week, and although the subject is not that pleasant, I think that staff prepared a complete report. They consulted with the Joint Health and Safety Committee, senior staff, emergency control group, our treasurer, legal counsel, and other municipalities. So are there questions staff need to answer going forward or not? Because other than that,
if you keep it brief, Councillor Alford, my intention today is that rather than debating the question, I guess is there consensus to defer this for a week?
That is the ask, Your Worship. There was no intention to debate tonight.
Okay. So just I will ask if there, by show of hands, if you're supportive of deferring item 7.1 back to next week's committee of the whole meeting. Okay, that's concluded. Thank you. I'll ask for disclosure of monetary interest. I see none. No delegations today. We have adoption of minutes, which is with Councillor Dwyer, please.
Thank you, Mayor Panko. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Allen that the minutes of the October 4th, 2021, October 12th, 2021, and October 18th, 2021 council meetings be approved as circulated.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Dwyer, second by Councillor Allen, that the minutes of the October 4th, 2021, October 12th, 2021, and October 18th, 2021 council meetings be approved as circulated. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Reports. Councillor Allen, you get to go first.
Have one, Your Worship. I'd like to report on the Smiths Falls Public Library. Amanda Foster, our CAO, has been very busy since she came on, and she's only been there a short time, but if you've been in the library, you'll notice a number of changes. The fiction department is now on the main level. When you go in the library, that whole area is fiction. The children's literature and young readers and informative information books are on the basement level. And of course, the children's department is still as was. Amanda applied for a $10,000 Pat Morris Communities Partner Matter Initiative through the Kimberly Foundation to enhance the Overdrive collection that we have. The Ontario Library Service online conference that she attended was very good, and she has lots of really good ideas to use with us as we move forward. There were a lot of different choices. We're trying very desperately hard to figure out how to make our Carnegie Library, which of course is one of our most treasured heritage properties, accessible. Of course, one of them is we do have a lift, but we're going to have an elevator at some point in time. But the other thing that we're looking at is accessible furniture. So she has got a quote for us for the children's furniture, and we're hoping to be able to move forward on that and replacing the shelving eventually in the whole library. I thought it would be of interest to citizens at home, but also to yourselves, what the statistics are in our library, because people have been asking me, are people coming out? Are they coming to the library? And so I thought I would just very quickly give you a bit of that information. Physical materials that were bought in the month of September were 3,215 items. Ebooks, 681 taken out. Homepage visits, 1,009. Facebook followers, 1,222. And in-person visits, 1,648 people. So we have a very active, very lovely library, and I just wanted to update you today. Thank you.
Great news. Thank you, Councillor Allen. Additional reports? Councillor Brennan, then Councillor Dwyer.
Thank you. I got a Heritage House report, and I've got some stats, but I want to report that a week ago Saturday, they had a fall fun day, and I don't have the exact number. I know there was around 125 people that attended. The wagon rides were very popular. There was music and, of course, a fantastic barbecue. And I want to thank my friend Gary Lackey for cooking all the burgers I served. Also, of course, this being Halloween weekend was very busy, and they sent me a report. They had 247 visitors this weekend, with a little over $2,000 in admission raised for the museum, and they had great reviews. And they actually broke down the visitors. So over the weekend, 29% of the visitors were actually from Smith Falls, 25% were from the county, Lanark County, 20% from Ottawa, 10% from the Seaway, 8% were from Montreal, and 8% from other places. So I'm not sure where they are. And over the weekend, 49 volunteers made the Ghost Walks happen, and those are people in our community that volunteer at our museum. And on the weekend, also Clarence Rockland Ghostbusters of Upper Canada helped light up the neighborhood and add a little outside entertainment for our guests. And if you saw those lights, they were fantastic. They had a pumpkin carving contest, and they're tabulating the results right now. And there was tons of traffic on the grounds just to get outside. The day that I was there, there was tons of people going around and and checking the pumpkins out, and they're a lot better than me at carving pumpkins, let me tell you. So that those results will be announced soon. And just to let you know that back to museum work, they're continuing to host the Smith Falls morning exhibit, and that's not morning as in time of day, it's morning as in funeral homes, and in partnership with Lannon's Funeral Home, and that's going on until November 13th. And a display of Smith Falls movie theaters, or it will be on until November 30th. So I encourage everybody to call the museum and book an appointment, and you won't be disappointed. So that's my report.
Great. That's great. Thank you, Councillor Brennan. Councillor Dwyer, please.
Thank you, Mayor Pankow. Just a very brief one to remind everyone that Reels auction, their charity auction to replace the Harvest Dinner, it has started as of this morning. You can go visit 32auctions.com/Reel 2021. And I can tell you that the bidding is already fiercely underway. They're already a quarter of their way to their goal. So bidding will run until November 13th. So check the website frequently. I believe once you bid on an item, you will get updates every time you're out there. So it'll prompt you to go back and check your item very frequently. Okay.
Super. Thank you. Additional reports. I've got a few myself. October 26th, I attended the regular hospital board meeting for the Perth and Smith Falls District Hospital, and there've been some news lately that the province had stepped up with I think about $7.3 million contribution to the hospital, and that was to erase a long-standing operating deficit, which really had originated from years of underfunding for the medium-sized hospitals, and of course other hospitals in the area had received funding as well. So in many ways, it had simply corrected a wrong, but it's very encouraging and great news for the hospital to be able to get the relief after having to carry that cost for a number of years. The same day, I participated on a panel, the Tourism Industry Association of Ontario, the TIAO conference. It was held at the Brooks Street in Canada on cannabis tourism. And so it's a very interesting panel. Of course, we developed a cannabis tourism strategy a few years ago. So I was able to speak to that and an opportunity to share that with, I think it was over 1,000 delegates. On October 27th, the Racism Discrimination Task Force met, and a survey has been issued. It's on the Speak Up Smith Falls as part of our town's website. Paper copies are also available at Town Hall at reception. And this survey was developed by the task force to gain a deeper and broader understanding of citizen experiences. So I think there's been a fair amount of interest. We received a fair amount of feedback so far, but for those of you who are listening or watching this afternoon, if you have a chance to go online, we'd love to hear more feedback from members of our community. And there's also a progress report, which has been completed and will be coming to council in the near future. And that afternoon, the Housing Advisory Committee met. There is some discussion on the progress we've made on the 17 recommendations that were developed by the Housing Task Force. And I will circulate that to council to gain a deeper understanding rather than spending time today going through all of that. On October 28th, we had a regular Police Service Board meeting, and as Councillor McGuire is not here, I'll just mention a couple of things from there. The 2021 budget is doing well. They're trending to a surplus, which is always positive. And we received the first draft of the 2022 budget. So the first draft is about a 2.39% increase over 2021, almost exclusively due to wage increases as a result of the collective agreement with the association. And that's it for my reports. Moving on, we have bylaw 7.1 was returned to committee of the whole earlier. We have bylaw 7.2, which is with Councillor Alver, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Brennan, that a bylaw to authorize execution of a community improvement program funding agreement with Matthew and Tegan Mackey respecting the property municipally known as 36 Maple Avenue be received and read a first time and taken as read a second time.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Alford, second by Councillor Brennan, that a bylaw to authorize execution of a community improvement program funding agreement with Matthew and Tegan Mackey respecting the property municipally known as 36 Maple Avenue be received out a first time and taken as read a second time. All in favor? It's carried. Discussion, please, Councillor Alford.
Yes, Your Worship, this is part of the Community Improvement Program 3, and it will, it's to fund $5,516 in the form of planning fees and building permit grant to the owners of, and prospective, or the builders of 36 Maple Avenue, which is a brownstone-like infill project on Maple that both the Community Improvement Committee and the Planning Advisory Committee fully endorse.
Thank you. Any further discussion? May I have a third reading, please?
Yes, moved by myself, second by Councillor Brennan, that a bylaw to authorize execution of Community Improvement Program funding agreement with Matthew and Tegan Mackey respecting the property municipally known as 36 Maple Avenue be read now a third time and finally passed, signed, sealed, and numbered 10267-2021.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Alford, second by Councillor Brennan, that a bylaw to authorize execution of a community improvement program funding agreement with Matthew and Tegan Mackey respecting the property municipally known as 36 Maple Avenue be now read a third time and finally passed, signed, sealed, and numbered 10267-2021. All in favor? It's carried. Thank you. Item 7.3, Councillor McKenna.
Yes, moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Alford that a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council at its meetings on the 4th, 12th, and 18th days of October 2021 be received and read a first time and taken as read a second time.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor McKenna, second by Councillor Alford, that a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council at its meetings on the 4th, 12th, and 18th days of October 2021 be received, read a first time, and taken as read a second time. All in favor? Carried. Discussion. Councillor McKenna.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. As per usual, this is a normal part of our business procedures, and it's a standard operating procedure for the town to confirm the minutes of those meetings.
Thank you. May I have a third reading, please?
Yes, again, moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Alford that a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council at its meetings on the 4th, 12th, and 18th day of October 2021 be now read a third time and finally passed, signed, sealed, and numbered 10268-2021.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor McKenna, second by Councillor Alford, that a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the council at its meetings on the 4th, 12th, and 18th days of October 2021 be now read a third time and finally passed, signed, sealed, and numbered 10268-2021. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. That's it for our bylaws. Our first motion is with back to Councillor Alford.
Thank you, Worship. Moved by myself, second by Councillor McKenna, that Council of the Corporation of the Town of Smith Falls appoint Scott Mousseau, Elizabeth Wood, and Leslie Lentz to the Downtown Business Association for the remainder of the 2018 to 2022 term of council.
Thank you. Discussion, please.
For the DBA, it's always a challenge, and 4 years is a long term, as we all know. And it has been a challenge to maintain and attract new board members. So we're super thrilled that we have 3 coming on at once.
Thank you. Any further discussion? It's moved by Councillor Alford, second by Councillor McKenna. The Council of Corporation of the Town of Smith Falls appoint Scott Mousseau, Elizabeth Wood, and Leslie Lentz to the Downtown Business Association for the remainder of the 2018 to 2022 term of council. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. And Councillor Allen, you have the final motion.
Yes, moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Brennan. Whereas the Ontario Building Code establishes detailed technical and administrative requirements and minimum standards for building construction. And whereas the Ontario Building Code regulates the minimum compliance requirements for barrier-free construction for certain new and altered buildings, the code does not adequately provide for accessible and universal housing requirements. that enable usability of the space for all our residents. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Smiths Falls does hereby request that the province of Ontario amend the Ontario Building Code to provide for accessible housing to accommodate all members of the community, and that this resolution be circulated to the Ministry of Municipal Affairs, all municipalities in Ontario, and applicable supporting agencies.
Thank you. Discussion, Councillor Allen?
Yes, Mayor Panko and I sit on the Housing Advisory Committee, and this was a very long and lengthy discussion we had. And Director Costello, who is our staff resource, prepared a draft resolution in consultation with the Deputy Chief Building Official to address the committee's concerns with respects to gaps in accessibility provisions for the Ontario Building Code. Some of the things we discussed were the width of doorways. It's not just a ramp at the front of the building, but the width of doorways, countertops being at a level where someone in a wheelchair would be able to access them and use them, and that sort of thing. So it was a really good expression of our concerns, and a lot of people spoke that day. And so this was brought forward, hoping that we would accept it.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Moved by Councillor Allen, second by Councillor Brennan. Whereas the Ontario Building Code establishes detailed technical and administrative requirements and minimum standards for building construction. And whereas the Ontario Building Code regulates the minimum compliance requirements for barrier-free construction for certain new and altered buildings. The code does not adequately provide for accessible and universal housing requirements that enable usability of the space for all residents. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Smiths Falls does hereby request that the Province of Ontario amend the Ontario Building Code to provide for accessible housing to accommodate all members of the community, and that this resolution be circulated to the Ministry of Municipal Affairs, all municipalities in Ontario, and applicable supporting agencies. All in favor? It's carried. Thank you. Inquiries or announcements? Councillor McKenna.
Thank you, Your Worship. It's more just a piece of information to those watching. I received, as probably my colleagues have today, several inquiries regarding the Legion's Remembrance Day plans, and just wanted to reinforce. I've reached out, and a number of you probably have. That's how the Legion sets up its Remembrance Day events is really their responsibility, and they did that. We're responsible for looking at the street closures and things like that. So I just wanted to remind the public that, like it or not, the Legion is responsible for those decisions. And we know Remembrance Day will be a good event, and I look forward to participating. But I just wanted to clarify that the town is actually not involved in the decisions of the Legion branch.
Thank you. And we know the Legion is also consulting with public health to obtain guidance on ensuring safety on Remembrance Day. Councillor Alford.
Not quite sure, but I was in charge of trivia. So if no one else has any inquiries and announcements, I'll go ahead. So here's the trivia. It's a little two-parter. A well-known local family used to own land in the town, and 4 of the streets are the first names of that family. Does anyone know what the family name is?
Councillor McKenna was up first.
Well, it was too easy. The joint with a Y.
Yes. Now, does anybody know what the first names of those streets and the family members are?
Percy, John,
Don,
Marcia, Catherine. No.
Carol.
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 Percy is one,
Carol,
isn't
sorry.
it?
Pardon me? Percy.
Percy?
So there's Percy, his wife Lyra,
Yeah.
and John is his son, and Carol is their daughter.
Well done.
There.
Thank
So we
you.
know something else about one of the streets in our town.
Councillor McKenna's put his hands up to volunteer for the next trivia, I guess. Thank you, Peter.
Excellent.
Well, no, I'll put the question out now because of the Heritage House is doing a feature on Smiths Falls theaters. For your next assignment, there is an award-winning born and raised, educated Smith Falls film editor, who's award-winning East Coast. She's done films for the National Film Board. She's won a film editing awards she's done feature-length films and documentaries. And I'll just leave that with you for next time.
You're giving us a week to prepare.
That's not in the Glenn Lockwood book, so it'll take some study.
Okay, Google might help with that. Councilor McKenna, do you want to come with another question as well in 2 weeks?
Sure.
Okay, you had your hand up first. Thank you. Okay, and Councilor McKenna, you've got adjournment.
Yes, I do. Thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Dwyer that this council adjourn its proceedings at 6:28 and stand so adjourned until the next duly called meeting of council.
I think 5:28.
Sorry, 5:28.
Okay,
My
good.
clock jumped ahead. I'm on Bell. So
Okay, we didn't want to sit here for the next hour before we left.
No, 5:28. Thank you.
Okay. Now I forgot who you said seconder was.
Councillor Dwyer.
Oh, sorry. Okay, thank you. Moved by Councilor McKenna, second by Councilor Dwyer. This council adjourns proceedings at 5:28 p.m. and stands so adjourned to the next duly called meeting of council. All in favor?